Hey everybody, welcome to Quality Time with Koala Bear. Today is episode 3. It's called Honest Organic Change. Now it's a companion video to episode 2, A Thin Blue Line, and it's meant to be tied together. Number 2 and number 3 actually meant to be tied together. Today the bulk of the story is going to be listening to Michael Jr.'s story, and then he has a second part follow-up with that. I want to start off by saying I am pro-police and I am pro-cop. I grew up around the fire department, around the police department. My dad was a firefighter. We got to do a lot of great things with both the fire department and the police department. So, it was a wonderful experience as a kid. So I do respect authority a lot. With that being said, I will say that we have to recognize that the problems can only be solved first by listening more and speaking a little less. I think that's why God gave us 2 ears and only one mouth. I also want to add before we get on with his story that I am challenged sometimes in not being jaded by the police. Even though I respect authority and I do respect the police, I had an incident 10 years ago where, as a man, you can automatically be judged as that you did something wrong, and I had to go through the system, and we got that cleared up. And I'm being a little vague because I don't want to take away from Michael Jr.'s story, and I want to be sensitive to some of my family. I don't put any blame really too much on anybody else, but I had to go through that process, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot that as a guy, sometimes you're going to be right or wrong. You're going to be judged differently than women, and I had to deal not only with the police in a smaller way, but enough to startle me, but also with Oregon DHS, and it's Oregon Department of Human Services, and it was an eye-opening experience. It's a gigantic agency, and they can often railroad guys. There's things that people do that are bad, yeah, and some of that stuff slips through the cracks. And it's been high profile in Oregon where people should have gone to jail for things and they did not, and so forth. I do recognize there are some good people in the agency, but they are highly dysfunctional. And they can also not only let things slip through the cracks, but they can also set their sights on somebody and just nail them. And they had their whack at me. And the short end of the story is that I was able to beat them back and get that case closed. And because I didn't commit a crime. I didn't do anything wrong, but it left a sour taste in my mouth, and I became jaded going through that process. It's a broken system. It's a broken system. It really is. With that being said, things happen in life, and hopefully, we learn from stuff and move on and move forward. So we're going to start with Michael Jr.'s story because that's why we're here today. But I want to add that because I can also empathize with some of the things that happen to people out there. So let's listen to Michael Jr., okay?
Yo, so I'd like to tell you a story. Story about me. I'm 19 years old, right? I live in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I am preparing to buy an oil change business with some other guys. I worked as an oil change technician since I was 14 years old, and now I want to buy a business. I want to own my own business. So I'm working like 16 hours a day, working hard, trying to get up enough money to buy this business. Now, I lived in this apartment complex. It wasn't the most sketchy complex, but it wasn't the best complex either. I didn't have any, I was saving every dollar I had. So my apartment complex was, it wasn't that complex. Let me just say that. But across the hall from me was some people who, they didn't look like me, but it was pretty clear to me that they was selling some drugs. In fact, there had been a gas company truck parked outside in our apartment parking area for a few weeks, but we didn't have gas at all in the apartment. Everything was electric. So I thought that was a little suspicious. And knowing that they were selling drugs or whatever, but I didn't care. I didn't have anything to do with that stuff. I just want to be a business owner at this point. And I remember going to work. I'd worked 16 hours. I'm on my way home. I'm exhausted. I'm tired. And as I come around the corner, I noticed that the dome light inside that truck was on. And when I bent the corner, it turned off real fast. But listen, I know what this means because I've been in this kind of scenario before. This means that place has probably been raided. And then I also see a bunch of people or legs jumping behind trees and in cars, and suddenly it's quiet. So I know what this is. I know exactly what is going on. It's probably been a bust of some sort. So I park like I normally would because I know I can't just drive off because they're going to fall. I don't know what's going to happen. So I stopped the car. I put it in park. I rolled the window down and I put both hands out the window. It's completely dark outside right now. You don't see anybody, like nobody's around, like nobody. I stick both my hands out of the window and I say, listen, officers, I want you guys to know I don't have anything to do with why you're here. I just got off work and I'm exhausted, I'm tired, and I'm just going to my apartment. Please understand that. I stick both my hands out the window and I got both hands out the window and I slowly open the door. I hear nothing. Nobody responds. It is completely quiet. It is actually too quiet. So I go ahead and I get out of the vehicle and I get out real slow with both my hands still in the air. And as soon as the door closes, 15, maybe 17 police officers come rushing at me. Now I'm afraid, and they're yelling, put your hands up, put your hands up. My hands are already up and they're being extremely aggressive. Here's the thing though. I understand this because they just did a drug bust. Somebody else is driving up. They gotta check me out and see who I am. I fully get that. Like that's probably protocol. And then they asked me for my ID, and I didn't have my ID on me. I left it in the counter, over the stove in my apartment. And I explained to him, hey man, I just don't have it. I was in a rush to get out today. But I don't have anything to do with these drugs. I have nothing to do with those guys. And now aggressively, and there's one police officer in particular who, let's just say, wasn't, he just seemed to not like me extra for whatever reason. And so they're walking me up to my apartment. Like every single step I take, they're taking steps right along with me. And I said, listen, as soon as I use this key to open the apartment, that'll prove to you that I live here. I don't have anything to do with them. And then we'll just go inside. Now keep in mind, I ain't had no money. I got a air conditioner and a mattress on the floor in my apartment. That's all I got. It kind of looked like a crack house. I'm gonna throw that out there. Like it wasn't the best looking scenario. But regardless, when I open my key, that means I have nothing to do with them. I twist the key in my heart and I just take a sigh like, oh, this thing is over. I walk in, the officers bust their way into. They're demanding to see my identification. And I tell them my ID is over the stove. But I'm not moving because I know if I make any sudden movements, I don't know. I'm pretty afraid at this point. So I walk over to the stove area, super slow. And I explain to him, I'm talking him through what it is I'm going to do. And instinctively, I noticed from growing up that this is what needs to happen. I say, so I'm about to lift up my right hand. I'm reaching into the cabinet. I'm pulling the cabinet door open. Literally, I was walking him through step by step by step. And I reach into the cabinet and I say, now I feel the wallet. I'm about to pull the wallet out. As soon as I say that cop, the one I told you about, He takes his gun, puts it to the back of my head right here, and cocks the hammer back. And I'm so afraid and angry and hurt because he could end my life right now and they can come up with some sort of story and nobody ever knows who Michael Jr. is. Just like that. So, I reach, I hold my wallet out like this, and they check my ID. That officer takes his gun off my head, and he leaves. The other officers stick around, and really just trying to make sure I'm not going to complain or call anybody. But who was I going to call? Like, really, who was I going to call? And then they leave. And then I remember sitting on the floor, hurt, in serious pain, and just angry for probably 30 minutes. Then there's a knock on the door, and the door busts open, and it's the lady from across the hall whose boyfriend or husband has just been taken away for selling drugs. And she's unconsolable. She's crying and screaming. They took everything, and she's speaking like broken English. I don't understand exactly. She's got these 2 little kids with her, and she is in pain, hurt, afraid. She doesn't know what to do. And I'm listening to her, and I'm thinking, well, you probably should pick a better boyfriend. That's what I'm thinking. But like, she's the reason this just happened to me. But instead, I just listened to her. And even though I couldn't understand everything she was saying, because our pain matched, the communication was way more clear than it should have been. So I reached into my wallet, and I had like $14 in change, and I gave her all of the money I had. And she was so grateful. She gathered her kids, and they gave me like a hug, and then they left, and she was still kind of crying. But I always thought that her coming to ask for that money was me giving to her, but she actually gave me a gift that's way greater. In that moment, when I was so hurt, when I was in so much pain, I was able to see somebody else's pain. And then I found an opportunity where she gave me an opportunity to give to her. I can't tell you what that did for me. Immediately, the pain and the hurt started to subside. Immediately, the pain started to go away, even though I couldn't articulate it in the moment. I should say the anger started to go away. I was still hurt. I was super hurt. But I know that lady gave me a gift that I needed right at that moment. And because of that, I've been able to forgive that officer. Like, I never had a conversation with him, but I don't hold any anger towards him at all, or any officers. Listen, I love people. Like, I love people. And if you have on a uniform, that doesn't mean you're not a person. I love people. But I also know that if we really want to be healed, like if there's a lot of us hurting right now, but I'm telling you, the thing to do is to look for the person next to you who's hurting as well and ask the question, what can I give? If you simply can ask, what can I give? There's healing in that, because the people around you need you right now. They need you to be willing to give, whether it be financially, whether it be understanding, whether it just be a hug, whether it be just to listen. And when you give in such a way, it's going to bring healing to you. The anger, the pain, the hurt will start to subside. That's where the healing takes place. I'm telling you, we need to ask the question, what can I do for someone else? I appreciate you. I love you. Michael Jr. Yo, Michael Jr. here. I am so grateful for all of those people out there who saw the video that's in my feed, and your feedback and your concerns and your cares just mean a lot to me. I never shared the story before. I'm talking about the one where about the officer who put his gun to my head and pulled the hammer back. I just really appreciate all the love that you guys have given with regards to that. I did not put that video out with regards to you seeing what happened to me. I really want the change at the end of the video. I really think that can help change the game. Another thing that's kind of dope that I believe could change the game as well. It's an idea I had. I put some prayer on it. I want to share it with you guys and put it out there. And I think it could be kind of dope. Here's what it is. I think the changes that we're going to make as far as our legal system and the whole system on how we recruit officers and everything that we're doing, the changes is great. And it should happen from the top, from our congressman, from the president. Like, some change has to happen. But I also think it'd be really cool to come at it from another angle that's a lot more practical, and it makes the change from the inside as opposed to something legal you gotta do on the outside. And here it is. What if we simply made a requirement that every new officer or every existing officer, 10 times every physical year, at least 10 times throughout the year, that they need to go into their community in plain clothes and have a meal with a household. Boom. As you know, when you sit down with somebody, something changes. Like when you break bread with them, when you taste Miss Johnson's potato salad and you ain't never had it before and you don't understand why she got green beans and bacon in it, but it works, like something changes. I just imagine when I was a kid, like every time we saw the police, we were afraid. Every time we heard that the police was being called, we were afraid. We would leave, like every single time. But I imagine how that may have changed if an officer came over without his gun, without his badges, and he was just a dude who was scheduled a meal with us, and now we're gonna sit down as a family and get to know this dude. Like, find out that his name is Brandon, and he finds out that I like to fish and I got a sense of humor. Like, how does that change the game for me, even as a child? When I see a police car, I'm wondering, is that Brandon as opposed to, yo, let's run. This is about to get ugly. And what does that do for Brandon? What does that do for the police officer when he finds out that the people in his community got some hopes and some dreams, and that Steve's dad is actually working really hard to take care of it, but he got these other kids and he's doing, like, what if he heard those stories? And like, I think you're slower to pull the trigger when you know somebody. You're slower to reach for your gun. Like, you want to hear what's going on. I just think if we made it a requirement that every officer breaks 10 meals every year with somebody in their community, ideally someone that doesn't look like them. And the city should pay for these meals too, by the way. I ain't gonna be paying for the food. I mean, I would, but I'm just saying. So I really think that would be significant. I think what we're doing from the top down is awesome, but what if we started from the heart as well and started changing hearts? Because when you know somebody, it's much harder to hurt somebody. Anyway, I appreciate you. I love you. I hope that you watch the movie I have coming out on June 19th, Selfie Dad. And anyway, I'm putting this out there. I hope somebody can run with it in some way. I'm going to do what I can as well. I appreciate you. I love you. I'm Michael Jr. I'm out.
Okay. Well, that's a powerful story. But the cool thing is, Michael Jr. is a super cool cat, and he's a great guy. And I haven't yet got to meet this guy, but he's a comedian. He's a Christian comedian, and he goes there's a circuit that he's on, and so forth. And he's been in a couple of films and so forth. But I have seen him in at a conference, at a telecast conference, and I've been following on Facebook ever since. I just think this guy is funny, and he's just a super cool dude. I think his outlook gives us some hope, and Michael Jr. is he has a fantastic outlook on life. I think the real hope, and I think he would even agree with this, is that the real hope is in the story of Jesus and the heavenly kingdom of God. There's so many of these things that, as people, we can't solve alone. So we need our Heavenly Father in that regard. But we have to be careful not to put too much faith in politicians or so-called movements like Black Lives Matter. And I'll get into that in another video. I think it's important that we don't rely on the government to try to solve all our problems. We're going to have to solve these ourselves in a lot of ways. We're going to have to communicate better with each other. Going back to the philosophy of books that you read and the people you hang around and listen to, I think that's important. I think, like I said, I mean, it's read what you can, listen to people, and that when we eat with other people, something beautiful really happens. And so I think that is a great idea that he has, and go forth. Okay, so the next video I post will probably be in a few days. The world is changing. A lot of things are happening in the news. Things that I thought I had ready to go. Things are changing a lot every few hours. And it's just, you know, a lot of crazy stuff in the news. But it's stuff that I want to talk about and to let you know that, you know, I deeply care about people. And I want to offer something that maybe somebody out there can use. With that being said, God bless you. Love you. Take care.